All right, so this is stress and the San Jose State University student. Okay, so these are the top 10 negative influences on a student's academic performance. And lo and behold, no surprise here, the first number one ranking negative influence is stress. And just looking at the list here, I can see plenty of other things or topics on this list that are influenced by stress, sleep difficulties, anxiety, and, illness, for number 4 and number 9, because remember, no illness is completely free from the influence of stress. Depression, being worried or concerned for a troubled friend or family member, or even number 10, experiencing a very, traumatic, stressful event of a death of a friend or a family member. So it's no surprise here that stress is something that students experience on a daily basis. And for this lecture, we're going to talk about some specific things, specific to San Jose State students like you, that you will experience throughout your career here at SJSU. Okay, so the biggest thing for younger college students, and I'm talking about students that graduate high school and, they leave home, they're living on their own for the first time, they are going to experience a tremendous lifestyle change. Now, these students are going to be responsible for domestic responsibilities. Now you are in charge of, when you wash your own clothes, when you wash your dishes, when you decide to feed yourself. You will also be trying to achieve competence, whether it's with your grades and trying to get your degree, or maybe it's through your work or through a sport. You're going to be learning how to manage and, feel different emotions during your college career. You're going to learn how to become autonomous. You're going to be clarifying your purpose in life. You're going to be developing integrity. So you have a lot on your shoulders here. There is a lot of stress and a lot of changes that are going to be coming your way. All right, so here's just a brief list of our stressors, specifically for times before COVID. And a lot of these things are still very relevant, but, for when we were still on campus, we had to deal with, of course, tuition, the cost of literally everything. We'll be talking about money and debt in a moment here. Squirrels, if you were on campus and you had the opportunity to, just hang out on campus, there's squirrels literally everywhere. The parking issues, there aren't that many parking spots on campus, and there are a lot of students that attend San Jose State University. Commuting, campus safety, food insecurity, being sick, your grades, homework, thinking about the future. There are a lot of things that we need to worry about when we are attending college. And we're going to talk about these big things that I'm highlighting here. But before I do that, I actually want to bring up some COVID-specific stressors because, this is a really weird time in our lives. And, to experience a pandemic, this is something that, other generations might not experience at all. So some COVID-specific stressors, of course, the threat of the virus, COVID-19, whenever you go out, maybe having that feeling of worry. Am I going to be exposed to the virus? Am I going to get sick? Making sure that you wear your mask when you go outside, you're washing your hands, you're not touching your face. And then the switch to online schooling. Now we have never-ending Zoom classes. There's an increased amount of schoolwork. Unfortunately, the cost of tuition is the same, even though that we're not on campus anymore. We have technology issues, whether it's issues with your computer or, connectivity issues with your Wi-Fi. We're being unfortunately forced to practice physical distancing from friends and family. We can't go out and socialize like we used to and get together. There's job uncertainty for a lot of us. A lot of businesses, organizations are closing down, whether if they're closing down for a span of a few months or they're closing down indefinitely due to COVID. All right, COVID aside, let's talk about money. All right, so this is the 2019-2020 student budget for undergraduate students. So just taking a look at the undergraduate total here. For students that live with their parents, they're going to be spending just shy of $20,000 to attend San Jose State. For students that are living on campus, we're looking at a little over 30 grand. And then for those that live off campus, it's very similar to campus housing because living in the San Jose area is ridiculously expensive. I did a little bit of research. So as of January 2019, there was just a mini study. They looked at listings of 61 bedroom apartments in downtown San Jose, and the average monthly rent in downtown San Jose for a one bedroom apartment was $2,276 per month. That is astronomical. For looking at the academic year, we're going to school for 9 months out of the year. That's $20,484. And that's a lot of money. And so for most of our students that live off of campus may choose to live with multiple roommates in order to reduce costs. And some students may not have a choice. That is their only, that might be their only choice in order to be able to live around campus. So going to school, living around this area, so incredibly expensive. And due to that, the amount of tuition and the amount of cost of living, that can lead to some debt. So I think on average, 1 out of every 4 Americans is in debt. And this is due to student loan debt. So there's an estimated 44.7 million people that have student loan debt. And the average 2019 graduate owed roughly a little over $37,000. And while this will vary greatly by location, students that are living here in the Bay Area, students that are living, in LA are going to have a little bit more student debt compared to individuals that are living in Utah or in Iowa or, in other locations that have a lower cost of living. Another thing that can heavily contribute to debt is the use of credit cards. And the average college student graduates with a little over $4,000 in credit card debt. Credit cards are particularly dangerous because, you just hand over this little piece of plastic and you don't think about the cost until you get the bill and you're like, holy moly, what did I buy this month? So you have to be really, really careful with using credit cards. So for a lot of students, this might be their first time learning how to manage money on their own. And this is what the book recommends in terms of, the first step, the second step, and the third step. I personally recommend using the second step as your first step. So first, figuring out where your money is going. And you can do that by using a spreadsheet. Creating one on Excel is fine, or there are a lot of different money managing apps, something like the Mint app, or you can even go onto their website, go onto mint.com, and you can write out all of your expenses and all of the things that you're buying, you're spending money on during the month. So let's figure out, how much money you're spending on rent, how much money you're spending on food, on, your electricity, your water bill, your gas bill, and then also figure out how much money you're spending on the fun stuff. So things like Netflix and going out to eat, and any other extra things, for, fun shopping money. And then once you figure out where your money is going, let's set a budget. And let's say that we've identified, okay, I'm spending way too much money on eating out, so I'm going to cut back these next few months. And this is what my eating out budget is going to be. I'm only going to spend $50 this month on eating out. And then after that, once we've set our budget, then we can try to tackle the debt. So tackle the debt, start paying it off little by little, while also trying to save a little bit on the side. when it comes to debt management, coming back to those student loans cannot be discharged even after bankruptcy, so they're going to follow you for the rest of your life. And if payments are becoming an issue, seek out repayment support, and there's plenty of different types of payment support out there. And as far as credit cards go, if it's possible, stop using them, especially if you know that you're having an issue with credit cards and spending. And you can also use the snowball technique in order to pay them off more effectively. So, start with the credit card. This is if you have multiple credit cards. Start with the credit card where you have the smallest balance. Pay that off first, and then slowly start paying off the larger debts by paying off the minimum payment on those larger debts. And then eventually that's just going to snowball, get bigger and bigger, and hopefully one day you'll be able to completely pay off all of those credit cards. Moving on to transportation, and I know that most of us aren't doing a lot of commuting right now, but this is still very relevant, especially, once we get back onto campus. This is going to come back in full force. All right, so a nice map of the Bay Area. So San Jose. So San Jose State is a commuter school, and we have students coming from all over the Bay Area to get to San Jose State. I've had students take a train from Tracy in order to get to San Jose State. I've had students from the city come down, students from Santa Cruz, from Gilroy, from Hollister, from all over the place that are commuting to San Jose State on, almost a daily basis. So commuting, why is this an issue? For those of you that live in San Jose or have just moved to San Jose, even right now during COVID, there's still quite a bit of traffic, and San Jose has been rated the 5th worst commuting city in the country, and the average commuter loses about 67 hours per year due to the commute. So we're losing time in the morning, getting to school, and then the evening driving home from school. And usually this is during peak traffic hours. And again, a very large portion of the SJSU student body used to commute to school every single day. And in addition to the pain of sitting in traffic, the cost of owning, maintaining, and insuring a car is not cheap. So a few commuting solutions, once we are able to get back onto campus, once it is safe, carpooling. So if you have friends that are heading to campus around the same time you are, take one car and split the cost of that parking permit. Taking public transit. So actually, as a San Jose State student, you are eligible to receive a free Clipper card. So that free Clipper card, you go to the student union, and I can actually provide you with some more information with that. I'll give you guys a link to go to, but this is absolutely free. Go pick it up. So you don't have to bother with the pain of trying to park at San Jose State. We'll talk about parking in a moment here. And for some of our students that are having issues finding a parking spot, maybe you might need to leave a little bit earlier than you actually planned. In the past, I have had students get to school at 7 a.m. for a class that they have at noon because, the parking situation, we don't have a lot of parking spaces at school. They need to get there early enough so they can just secure a spot for the day, and it's crazy. So let's talk about those parking garages. So we have 3 parking garages on campus, 4,125 spots total. But we have over 30,000 students attending this university, and that is nuts. So parking is definitely an issue. And then on top of that, there are 4 parking lots that students can't even use. There is a park and ride lot. However, the park and ride has been suspended due to COVID, but I'm sure it'll be back once we, get back into the normal swing of things. And then of course, there's also perimeter parking around the university you can pay for up to 3 hours, but you have to keep running back out to your car if you're going to be on campus for longer than 3 hours and continue to pay that fee. And then we also have the Park Stash app, and the Park Stash app will actually show you the garage capacity, and it'll let you know if there are spots available, and then it can also check shuttle routes for that park and ride lot. So for students that can't find parking during a air quote normal semester, you can go park off campus in a parking lot on 7th Street, and then there will be a bus that will shuttle you to campus. And then I just wanted to include a couple of other apps, the Park Mobile app if you're paying for parking, if you're going to be on campus and you're going to be driving your car, pay for parking. And then we have the Double Map app, the live updates of the Park and Ride shuttle location. But again, the Park and Ride has been suspended currently due to COVID, so just make sure that you keep that in mind if you are going to be going onto campus this semester. All right, so as far as parking solutions go, again, carpooling, utilizing public transportation, use off-campus parking structures, and if you can, walk or bike in. And for some people, you might have to get here a little bit earlier, but for others, you really can't get here much earlier, and it's tough. So for those of you that are new to San Jose State and you are going to be commuting, just make sure that you're prepared, that you know that there's definitely a parking issue on campus. And again, utilize public transportation, get that free Clipper card. Okay, let's talk about safety, because this is still very much an issue because there are students currently living on campus. So every year, SJSU releases a crime report, and you can go back and view all of the crime reports for, gosh, I don't even know how many years that they have them for. But this is the one for 2019, and it actually gives you the last 3 years of what, the incidences of crime that occurred. So looking at, things like murder and rape, fondling, incest, robbery, burglary, dating violence, domestic violence, incidences of stalking, and then of course we have other things that pertain to alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and things that are on campus, the campus residential areas, non-campus, so around San Jose State, public property, and then there's also this column for Moss Landing. San Jose State has a research laboratory in Moss Landing, so we've also included it here in the crime report. One of the big things, near and around San Jose State is, not only, things like, burglary and theft and assault, but one big one is acquaintance rape. So acquaintance rape is forcible sex between two people who know each other. And this is more frequent among college students than any other demographic. And nearly 25% of college women have been victims of rape or attempted rape. And only 13% of acquaintance rape involves an actual date. And this is even more astounding. 90% of college rape victims know their assailant. So usually, just like the title, acquaintance rape, this is somebody that you know. This is an acquaintance, this is a friend. A lot of individuals, a lot of these victims know their assailant. Just some tips to prevent acquaintance rape. If individuals don't show you respect, you should avoid them. Make sure that you are clear about your limits, say no. And you do have the right to change your mind. If you go into something and, it doesn't feel comfortable anymore, you can say no. You can change your mind. Trust your instinct or that gut feeling. If something doesn't feel right, don't stay in that situation. And make sure that you have a backup plan. Let someone know that, hey, I'm going to be at this party. I should be back at X time. I'm going to send you my location from, my cell phone. I'm going to send you a message with my location. And if I don't come back by morning, send out the search party. Make sure that you communicate with the people that you are with. Ask and do not assume. Do not assume that they are on the same page that you are. So again, make sure that you keep up that communication. Make sure that you know, your message and their message is clear. And then finally, if you're at a party specifically, you know, pour your own beverage and keep it in sight. You know, a lot of different drugs can be slipped into beverages, and this commonly occurs when someone leaves their beverage unattended. So if you've left your beverage unattended and you don't know if somebody's done anything to it, just throw it out and get a new one. It's not a big deal. Because, you know, things like Rufalin, roofies can be slipped into a beverage very easily. Okay, so let's be proactive. So if you are on campus and you are concerned about your safety, let's make sure that you know about these things. Let's know about blue light phones, the safety escort, and the safe ride program. All right, so blue light phones, these are where they are located all over campus. So these blue light phones, they are 20 standalone phones. They are also located in all elevators. Plus, there are even interior building blue light phones that are scattered within buildings. You pick it up and it rings directly to the University Police Department, and it's answered like 911. And it takes about 2 to 3 seconds. And you can use this to report an emergency, to report suspicious activity, to request an escort. You know, maybe you are, you know, feeling a little worrisome. You noticed that, you know, there was some suspicious activity and you're afraid to walk to the library. You know, you can ask for an escort, and you can ask for an escort to walk to your car. And you can also get assistance with a vehicle in the garage. You know, let's say you locked your keys in the car or your car battery died and you need a jump. You can use blue light phones for all of these things that I've just mentioned. And then the safety escort program. So this is a 24/7 program, and if you request a safety escort, they will provide a trained student assistant or a police officer to walk you to your destination. And this applies to anywhere on campus and up to 2 blocks off of campus. So I'm going to show you the map of what that looks like in a bit. But before that, let me show you this SJSU Safe Ride program. So this is Monday through Friday from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. And this will give you a ride for students, staff, and or faculty anywhere within the area of service on the next slide. And the wait time is going to vary based on the number of rides that are requested before your ride. But just showing you, this specifically is for the SJSU Safe Ride program. So this is how far they will take you. So if you live somewhere, you know, off campus and you want a ride, you know, maybe it's pretty late, because this again goes up until 1 a.m. They can take you there. So these are some important numbers that you should probably keep in your phone. You know, the safety escort / safe ride program. Here's the number for that. You know, parking services, all of the University Police Department contact numbers. But I think definitely keeping this one, you know, in your cell phone. You know, you never know when you're going to need it, but, you know, and if you do, you have it there. Okay, let's talk about food. All right, so food insecurity at San Jose State University. This is a serious reality for over half of our students. There was a poll that was recently done at school for the 4,286 students that participated. Over 50% reported an issue with food insecurity. And they were asked the question whether or not the participant had to skip a meal or cut the size of a meal because they didn't have enough money. And 37.9% answered sometimes true, and 11.7% answered often true. So there are a lot of students on campus that, you know, aren't sure if they're going to have enough money, or, you know, where their next meal is going to come from. And there is plenty of available on-campus food aid. You know, there are student food shelves, and these are stored in various buildings around campus. I'll show you a picture of what that looks like in a bit. There were cooking classes at the Wellness Center. I hope that once we are able to get back onto campus, you can go back and sign up for these classes at the Wellness Center. There's a mobile food pantry, the just-in-time mobile food pantry, and then there also the Spartan Food Pantry. And I know for sure that the Spartan Food Pantry is open right now during COVID. And these are all of the places where those little food shelves, those food cupboards are located all over campus. Because I know some of you are still going onto campus. So if you are interested in where they are, this is where they are on campus in each of the buildings. And this is an example of what one looks like. Usually they have a lot of foods that are non-perishable, a lot of canned foods, boxed foods, plenty of good stuff. As far as off-campus food aid goes, there's SNAP. You can sign up for SNAP. This is formerly called food stamps. Second Harvest Food Bank, you can sign up and you can pick up free bags of fresh groceries either once or twice a month. And then Salvation Army or Loaves and Fishes, they provide hot meals. So I know some of you are asking yourselves, how can I help? So if you want to help your fellow brothers and sisters in education, here are a few ways that you can take the fight to food insecurity. So, you can donate money if you have, money available to donate. You can donate online, or if you don't want to donate money, I know a lot of organizations on campus are looking for plastic containers to be donated so students can, take things home. You can volunteer. Maybe you can volunteer at the Spartan Food Pantry. You can pressure your department to have a food shelf, to have one of those food cabinets. You can serve on the Student Hunger Committee, and then of course you can disseminate information and you can talk about it and you can tell all of your friends about all of these wonderful programs that are available for individuals that have these food insecurities. All right, so still kind of talking about food, things that are related to food, eating disorders. Unfortunately, eating disorders are very prevalent in this population, college students. So common eating disorders include anorexia nervosa, bulimia, and then we have muscle dysmorphic disorder, although it's not technically an eating disorder, but we'll talk about that specifically in a moment. But these eating disorders and muscle dysmorphic disorder occur in the process of trying to achieve a perfect body. And body dissatisfaction and attempts to change and control one's body are common among college students, and this can lead to an adoption of unhealthy and life-threatening eating habits like anorexia nervosa and bulimia. So individuals that are diagnosed with anorexia nervosa, there's a relentless pursuit of thinness, an unwillingness to maintain a healthy weight, an intense fear of gaining weight, and disturbed eating behavior. And bulimia is characterized by recurrent episodes of eating large amounts of food, so that's binging, followed by incidences of purging. And purging can mean, self-induced vomiting or taking laxative pills in order to get everything out. And then muscle dysmorphic disorder, usually this is more so experienced by males, but we'll talk about that one more specifically in a moment because I would like to talk more about these eating disorders. So anorexia nervosa, these individuals are incredibly thin, and when they look at themselves in the mirror, they don't really see how thin they are. They see someone that is very overfat, overweight, but in reality, that's not the case at all. And something like anorexia nervosa can be incredibly life-threatening because you're not providing your body with the nutrients macronutrients and micronutrients that it needs in order to survive and thrive. So a lot of individuals can die from something like anorexia nervosa and bulimia as well. So when it comes to treating anorexia, first and foremost, we want to make sure that we restore that individual to a healthy weight, and we want to treat the psychological issues that are related to the eating disorder by, reducing or eliminating behaviors or thoughts that lead to those disordered eating practices, and then preventing relapse from occurring. So usually there's some sort of therapy involved, whether it's individual, group, or family-based therapy. And I just wanted to mention some other psychological issues that can be related to this eating disorder. They include depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, or substance abuse. And again, like I mentioned previously, those that have anorexia nervosa can suffer, tremendously. It can lead to death. They can have heart problems, they can have osteoporosis, brittle hair, nails, muscle weakness, low blood pressure, extreme fatigue. So these eating disorders are incredibly serious. When it comes to treating bulimia, so this is the binging and purging episodes, a combination of approaches here, nutritional counseling as well as psychotherapy. A specific type of therapy that is used here is cognitive behavioral therapy, and this is a talk therapy where a psychologist or a therapist will ask you questions and lead you through a structured therapy session. And CBT helps people problem solve, and it also helps reveal the relationship between beliefs, thoughts, and feelings and the behaviors that follow. And at times, individuals with bulimia will be prescribed antidepressant medications such as Prozac. Okay, moving on to muscle dysmorphic disorder. So again, usually experienced by males. And this is, I don't want to say it's the opposite of anorexia, but, we have, again, usually young males looking at themselves in the mirror and they don't feel like they're fit enough. They don't feel like they're big enough. But in reality, they're incredibly fit. They have very, very big muscles. But when they look in the mirror, they look at themselves and they think, oh my gosh, I'm so skinny, I'm so scrawny. But in reality, that's not the case whatsoever. And in order to get this big and strong, there is food involved. It involves a lot of eating as well as, strength training. So there might also be a slight obsession over exercising. And so for individuals that have been diagnosed with muscle dysmorphic disorder, there's usually some therapy involved, and then medications, usually antidepressants, are prescribed. Okay, so if you or anyone that you know is having issues, with eating disorders or muscle dysmorphic disorder, there is help. There's help on campus. And right now, due to COVID, all counseling services, whether you need help, with psychological counseling, if you think that you have an eating disorder, or if you need help with, just general education counseling, all the counseling is going to be done over the phone, or virtually via Zoom. And for more information, I have pasted the counseling, SJSU counseling link here. And I also wanted to mention, this is something that is new. So this is u.sjsu.edu. And this is something that's really neat. You can create your own account with your SJSU ID number, and this is something that's completely confidential, and it helps you take charge of your own health, whether you can take different quizzes and assessments to kind of look at your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. And so this is really, really neat, and I think this would be an excellent tool to help manage your stress, because there are a lot of things that overlap in our class that can definitely be applied, and things that you can use from SJSU that will help you with stress management. So there's a lot of back and forth here. So if you're interested, I also left the link for that here as well. But going back to counseling and psychological services, also known as CAPS, there are a lot of helpful tools and different things that are available for free for San Jose State University students. And if you would like to see a counselor or a therapist, it is free, and you do get a number of free therapy or counseling sessions during the semester. So if you're interested, definitely look into that. Okay, moving on to relationships. So during your college years, you are going to experience, plenty of different relationships, whether they are friendly or romantic. These relationships will be built and they will also decay during college. And both friendly and romantic relationships are inherently stressful, both in terms of eustress and distress. And in regards to romantic relationships, distress will occur when our expectations for a relationship do not align. And I'll explain. I'll give you an example of that in a bit, but let's talk about some different types of love. So first we have erotic love. This is, passionate, all-enveloping, heart-racing, exciting type of love. Most commonly described as like the butterflies in my stomach feeling kind of love. And then we have ludic love. This involves no long-term commitment, and it's just for fun. It's very playful, very flirtatious. Personally, I call this the Tinder type of love because, with that dating app, we're not looking for anything serious. It's just, no long-term commitment here. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then the storgic love. This is calm, compassionate, long-term love. I have goals of getting married and having children in this relationship. And then manic love. Manic love is, very jealous. It's, the word manic, exactly what you would think when you think of the word manic. Individuals are jealous. This is, it also has a little bit to do with erotic love. But this very rarely turns into a long-term relationship. So let me give you that example of, when distress can occur in a relationship. So let's say we have an individual, that is interested in ludic love. They're not looking for a long-term commitment. They're just looking, for something that's very playful and flirtatious in the moment. And then the other individual is looking for something more long-term. So if they don't communicate that to each other, eventually we're going to have a little bit of distress in this relationship and it's not going to work out. So, if you're looking for ludic love, that's fine. If you're looking for storgic love, that's cool too. But just make sure that you communicate with the other individual in order to avoid any conflict and potential distress later on in that relationship. And usually with relationships, this sex will often come about. So making sure that you're practicing safe sex. And condoms are free at the Wellness Center. Use them. They are very effective at reducing rates of pregnancy and sexually transmitted infection transmission. And so just some facts for you. About 1 in 4 college students have an STD or an STI. So this is 25% of college students that have some sort of STI or STD. And young adults ages 15 to 24 account for more than half of new STD diagnoses annually. So again, a large percentage of these cases are occurring among college students. And a lot of these individuals underestimate the risks of having unprotected sex. Because, you know, a lot of sexually transmitted diseases or sexually transmitted infections are not visible. A lot of these things you can't see, especially if some of them are in their dormant phase. You know, for example, something like genital herpes can technically still be transmissible if it's not visible. And then something like human papillomavirus, you know, there are many different strains of HPV, and a lot of them, you know, you know, human anatomy, genitalia will appear completely normal and healthy, but in reality, you know, someone might have HPV and they might not even know it because it's not something that's visible. So all of these things are transmitted through sexual activity, and they are caused by parasites, bacteria, or viruses. And the ones that are in red are not curable. So you'll have genital herpes for the rest of your life. There are certain strains of HPV that are incurable. Hepatitis B, genital warts, you have it for the rest of your life. And I'm sure you've heard this before, you know, when you sleep with someone, you're sleeping with them and all of their previous partners, because if somebody's previous partner had genital herpes, chances are they will too. And you know, unfortunately, you might end up, you know, getting that from your current partner. So the best way to prevent sexually transmitted infections or sexually transmitted diseases are to make sure that you get tested regularly, use protection, you know, condoms. And again, you can get condoms for free at the wellness center. You just have to flash your ID, and I think you can pick up 2 types of condoms, and they have every single brand you could ever imagine, and you can get 2 per day. If you wanted to go every single day and grab 2 condoms, you can do that. So, you know, make sure that you're using protection, make sure that you're getting tested on a regular basis. And you can actually get tested through the wellness center at school. Okay, now talking about some miscellaneous stressors. So for our older college students, so maybe these are individuals that, you know, maybe they went into the armed forces or they were engaged in other activities that postponed their education. So maybe, you know, we have people that, again, like I mentioned, they went into the army, went into the military, or, you know, they started working immediately after high school, or maybe some individuals had children and now they're coming back to school. They will also experience the same stressors as younger college students, as well as have a few unique stressors. So on top of school, you know, maybe they have to balance a family, and they also have to balance a career, you know, outside of their coursework and their classes. And then a lot of older students tend to experience a little bit of self-doubt. You know, they question themselves, can I do this? You know, everybody else is younger than me, they have more experience with technology, you know, can I do this? So these are just a few things that the older college student will experience. The minority or international college student, as we all know, racism is still very prevalent in our society. So they will experience instances of racism. You know, they will have pressure to perform, whether that's based on you know, what's dictated in their family, in their set of core values, or you know, maybe they have a scholarship that, you know, they need to make sure that they keep their grades up, because if they lose their scholarship, they have to go back home. There's something else that I wanted to mention about cultural values. Oh yes, some cultural values may not match up with American cultural values, so there'll be a lot of stress when trying to, you know, kind of make the shift into, you know, an American lifestyle. Moving on to student athletes. So student athletes, you have 2 full-time jobs. You are a full-time student that has to get good grades, and you are a full-time athlete. So also participating, in training and traveling for games, it is exhausting. Um, again, like I mentioned previously, 2 full-time jobs. And I know student athletes that also have a part-time job outside of being a student and being an athlete for San Jose State. So it's incredibly time-consuming. It's exhausting. I know students that are up at, 5 in the morning to go to training before their first class. And then traveling, usually they're traveling to different places all over the state or all over the country, and it is exhausting. And then finally, just as the last miscellaneous stressor, and this pertains to everybody, just learning how to balance work and school. For a lot of students starting off their college years, this is something that's brand new to you. You have to balance lots of different responsibilities, and 2 important ones being work and school. And that is the end.